All right, so today we're going deep into some seriously wild medical mysteries.
Oh, I love a good medical mystery.
Buckle up, because these stories from Mr. Ballin, Mysterious, specifically his gut instinct episode,
Yeah, I've seen that one.
they really highlight how tricky diagnoses can be.
Oh, absolutely. The human body can be a real puzzle sometimes.
For sure. And these stories are all about misdiagnoses.
Oh, interesting.
One ends with a sigh of relief, but the other, not so much.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
All right, so first up, we've got a retired surgical oncologist, Thomas Trona.
Okay, a specialist. That's interesting.
He's just back from this epic Grand Canyon rafting trip, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. But instead of feeling refreshed, he gets hit with this intense abdominal pain, nausea, starts losing weight, constantly tired.
Wow, that's not the kind of souvenir you want from a vacation.
Not at all. And, given his background as a cancer specialist.
Right. I bet that experience colors his perception of everything.
Exactly. His mind immediately goes to the worst case scenario.
I mean, I can only imagine seeing those kinds of cases firsthand. It's got to stick with you.
For sure. He becomes convinced it's cancer.
Oh, wow.
He's meticulously documenting his symptoms, which probably just makes his anxiety worse.
I can see that hyper-awareness.
He even calls up his gastroenterologist friend, Dr. Gonen, trying to get a CT scan like ASAP.
Trying to pull some strings.
Yeah, but the wait time is weeks out.
Ugh, the waiting game is the worst.
The worst, and in the meantime, the pain gets so bad he collapses, ends up in the ER.
Oh, man.
Blood tests show he's got elevated eosinophils.
Okay, elevated eosinophils, so that could be a few things, right?
Yeah, and for those listening who don't speak doctor, eosinophils are a type of white blood cell.
Right, the body's little soldier.
When they're elevated, it could mean allergies, parasites, or, as Thomas is convinced, cancer.
It's so interesting how our minds tend to latch on to the worst case scenario, especially when it comes to health.
Absolutely. It's like our brains are hardwired to go there.
It's that fight or flight instinct kicking in.
Totally. And in this case, Thomas is laser focused on cancer, dismissing the other possibilities.
Even though you said it was a surgical oncologist.
Yeah, he's a specialist, which makes this even more intriguing.
You'd think he'd be a little more open to other possibilities.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
He hasn't traveled internationally recently, no signs of a parasitic infection.
Mm-hmm.
His primary care doctor even suggests a grain-free diet.
Oh, come on.
Can you imagine a seasoned oncologist getting that advice?
That's gotta be frustrating, almost insulting.
Totally. But finally, the long-awaited CT scan day arrives.
The moment of truth.
And the results. Completely normal, no cancer.
So he can breathe a sigh of relief.
You'd think so. But his symptoms persist. He's still sick, losing weight, in pain.
Oh, wow. So the mystery continues.
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting. Even with all the technology, medicine isn't always black and white.
Right. The tests can say one thing, but the body's telling a different story.
Totally. And he's more confused than ever. Dives deep into medical research, lands on eosinophilic gastroenteritis as a possible explanation.
Okay, so he's taking matters into his own hands, doing his own research.
He's not giving up. Reaches out to Dr. Gonen again, desperate for answers.
I mean, you can't blame him. The not knowing is the worst.
The absolute worst. And to his credit, Dr. Gonen orders more tests. But everything keeps coming back normal.
It's like his body's playing a cruel joke, sending all these signals, but no clear source.
Totally. And this is where the expertise of a physician really comes in.
Absolutely. It's about looking beyond the standard tests, considering the whole picture.
Right. And Dr. Gonen, he's not dismissing Thomas. He's willing to go the extra mile.
Which makes all the difference.
He orders a specialized MRI. And finally, there's a breakthrough.
All right. A glimmer of hope.
It reveals a small, thin abnormality. But at first they think it's just plaque buildup.
Okay. So maybe not a big deal.
But the radiologist, just to be safe, schedules a follow-up CT scan.
Better safe than sorry.
And this is where things get really wild.
Okay, hit me with it.
The spot in the MRI, it had moved.
What? Hold on, what do you mean it moved?
Moved. And not only that, the CT scan reveals a gallstone, which means immediate surgery.
Okay, so things are escalating quickly.
So they go in to remove the gallstone,
Mm-hmm.
and the surgeon comes out with this grin on his face.
A grin. Now I'm really curious what's going on.
The gallstone, it wasn't the main issue.
Okay, there's more to this story. I can feel it.
He found a sharp metal wire lodged in Thomas's intestines.
A wire. Where did that come from?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
No wonder he was in so much pain. They analyzed the wire. It's about 1 inch long.
Okay, so decent size.
And get this, it has a carbon pattern matching burned barbecue sauce.
Wait, barbecue sauce? Now we're talking.
Remember that Grand Canyon rafting trip?
Starting to put the pieces together.
It's the last night of the trip. They're having a barbecue, and Thomas's guide is grilling up a feast.
So the wire, it's from the grill.
Bingo! It was a bristle from the grill cleaning brush.
No way. He swallowed a grill brush bristle.
It happens more often than you'd think, but yeah, that tiny bristle had been wreaking havoc on his system.
That's crazy. Talk about a dangerous souvenir.
Right. It's a reminder that even seemingly harmless activities can have unexpected consequences. But our next story, this one shows how a misdiagnosis can have even more serious, life-altering consequences.
All right, I'm ready. Bring on the next medical mystery. All right, I'm hooked. What's this next story about?
This one takes us to the great outdoors, specifically the woods of Vermont. Beautiful, but notorious for bugs.
Oh yeah, Vermont, beautiful scenery, but those black flies can be brutal.
No kidding. And our next patient, Elizabeth, she learns that the hard way.
Oof, sounds like a rough encounter.
She's on a camping trip with her husband, Ron, when they get swarmed by black flies.
Anyone who's been camping knows those things are relentless.
Totally. And Elizabeth, she gets bitten multiple times, no bug spray, bad luck.
Ugh, I hate those itchy bites that can drive you crazy.
At first, she doesn't think much of it, figures it's just part of the camping experience, you know?
Bro, like a badge of honor, but sometimes those bites can be more than just annoying.
Yeah, and over the next few days, things take a turn for the worse.
Oh.
The bites turn into these nasty welts that just won't quit.
That's when you know it's more than just a little irritation. Something's not right.
Plus, she gets this persistent headache that keeps coming and going.
Headaches are never fun, especially when they linger.
But Elizabeth, she's tough. She decides to push through it. Even goes on another camping trip to Vermont the following weekend.
Another trip. Maybe not the best idea if she's not feeling well.
You'd think, right? But she's determined to enjoy her vacation, even though this second trip, it's a total washout, literally.
Oh no, like pouring rain the whole time.
The whole time. And she wakes up feeling even worse, headaches pounding, she's got a fever, the itching's driving her mad.
That's a whole bunch of symptoms piling up, not a good sign.
And then there's this weird, gritty feeling in her mouth.
Gritty. That's strange.
It's like her body's staging a full-on revolt.
Yeah, that sounds like a serious red flag.
And here comes the moment that sends shivers down my spine. She goes to brush her teeth, and her spit is pink. She tastes blood.
Blood. Oh, that's not good. Not good at all.
Upon closer inspection, she discovers black blood blisters all over her mouth.
Black blood blisters? That sounds terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. She's understandably freaked out.
I can only imagine the panic.
Her cousin's husband, he's a doctor, takes a look. But even he's stumped. Never seen anything like it.
So even a medical professional is baffled. That's got to be unsettling.
It's the worst kind of uncertainty, you know. They decide to rush to the ER, but during the drive, her condition gets even worse. Her face swells up. Every bump in the road is excruciating.
It's like a ticking time bomb. Every minute counts.
They finally arrive at the ER, and the doctor on call, Dr. Fitzharris, she's shocked by the severity of Elizabeth's rash.
It must have been pretty bad to shock an ER doctor.
Red, bumpy, covering her entire body, like her skin's on fire.
That's a major systemic reaction. The body's screaming for help.
But here's the kicker. They run all these tests, x-rays, blood work. Everything comes back normal.
Normal. But she's clearly very sick. What's going on?
That's the mystery, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Fitzharris, she's determined to get to the bottom of it.
I mean, you gotta admire that drive to find answers.
She calls in the infectious disease specialist, Dr. Albright.
Bringing in the big guns.
He considers an insect-borne illness. Makes sense, given the camping trips.
Yeah, that's the logical first step.
They start her on antibiotics as a precaution, but the rash just keeps getting worse.
So not a bacterial infection. That narrows things down.
That's when they bring in the dermatologist, Dr. Crespo, and he makes a diagnosis that changes everything.
Okay, what is it? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Stevens-Johnson syndrome, SJS.
SJS, that's serious, right?
Very serious. It's this rare and potentially life-threatening allergic reaction.
So the body's basically attacking itself.
Exactly. The immune system goes haywire, attacking the skin and mucous membranes.
It's like the immune system's gone rogue.
And Elizabeth, she's totally confused, hasn't eaten anything unusual, no new allergens. So what triggered this violent reaction?
Yeah, that's the big question. What set it off?
Well, Dr. Crespo, he's convinced he knows the culprit. Ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, that common over-the-counter pain reliever.
The one and only.
Wow, you don't usually hear about ibuprofen causing such extreme reactions.
It's rare, But it happens. Turns out Elizabeth had been taking ibuprofen regularly for the swelling and headaches from the black fly bites.
Something she probably took without a second thought.
And she'd taken it before with no problems, which is what makes SJS so tricky.
Right, it can develop even after years of using a medication without any issues.
It's one of those mysteries of the immune system, why it suddenly decides to turn on you.
It's a reminder that even the most familiar things can have unexpected consequences.
Absolutely. So in Elizabeth's case, the ibuprofen triggered this cascade of events leading to SJS, and with steroid treatment, she eventually recovers.
That's good to hear. At least there's a positive outcome.
But there's a lasting consequence. The SJS caused permanent damage to her tear ducts.
Oh no, so she has to use eye drops all the time now.
Constantly, just to keep her eyes lubricated.
That's heartbreaking. A simple camping trip turned into a life-altering ordeal.
It's a powerful reminder that even seemingly harmless medications can have serious side effects, and sometimes our bodies react in ways we just can't predict. And now, buckle up for our final story. This one's less about a mysterious illness and more about a misdiagnosis that had devastating consequences within the legal system.
Oh, wow. Okay, this sounds heavy. I'm ready.
This last one, this is a tough one. It's not really about like a mysterious illness. It's more about a misdiagnosis that had some really serious consequences for a family.
Oh, wow. Okay, so a different kind of medical mystery.
Yeah, a bit different. So picture this. 1989, Missouri, we meet Patty Stallings, young mom, happily married, 4-month-old son named Ryan.
Okay, young family, got it.
But there's a bit of a wrinkle, Ryan. He's had some digestive issues ever since he was just a tiny baby.
Oh, poor little guy. Those tummy troubles can be so tough for babies.
It's July 4th. Patty and her husband David, they're watching fireworks with Ryan.
A classic summer evening.
And suddenly, Ryan starts vomiting like crazy.
Oh, no. Especially with a baby that little, vomiting's always a big concern.
Exactly. And then, 5 days later, things get even worse. Patty finds Ryan unresponsive. He's struggling to breathe.
That's every parent's nightmare.
She panics, grabs Ryan, rushes him to the hospital.
In a moment like that, you just go, pure instinct.
But in all the chaos, she accidentally ends up at the wrong hospital.
Oh no, in an emergency, it's easy to get things mixed up.
It happens, but this mistake, it ends up having huge consequences.
Wow, okay, I'm sensing this is where things take a turn.
They stabilize Ryan in the pediatric intensive care unit, run some blood tests.
The standard procedure.
But the results, they're shocking. The tests show high levels of ethylene glycol in Ryan's system.
Ethylene glycol, wait, isn't that antifreeze?
You got it, highly toxic stuff.
Oh my gosh, especially for a baby, that's incredibly dangerous.
And the doctor in charge, Dr. Stevens, he immediately suspects foul play.
So he thinks someone intentionally poisoned Ryan.
He confronts Patty and David, basically accuses them of poisoning their own son.
Wow, that's a heavy accusation to just jump to that conclusion.
It's a complete nightmare. The police get involved. Patty and David are questioned separately, grilled about their marriage, their baby.
So they're treated like criminals even though there's no proof.
It's awful. They're eventually released, but Ryan's taken away, placed in foster care while they investigate.
So they're separated from their child who's sick and in the hospital.
Talk about adding insult to injury. They're allowed weekly supervised visits with Ryan, but it's heartbreaking. They just want to clear their names.
I can't imagine the anguish, feeling helpless like that.
And then, 6 weeks later, the police show up at their house with a search warrant.
Oh no, this isn't looking good.
They find an open container of antifreeze in the basement.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all.
And to make matters worse, Ryan's readmitted to the hospital with the same symptoms.
So now it looks even more like poisoning.
Right, and during their last visit, Patty had fed Ryan a bottle of formula. The police test the bottle, find traces of antifreeze in it.
Oh, wow. So now there's direct evidence linking Patty to the antifreeze.
Patty's arrested, charged with assault with a deadly weapon.
This is just spiraling out of control.
Ryan's condition gets worse. He's put on life support.
It's just tragic. The baby's fighting for his life, and his mother's being accused of hurting him.
David, he begs the judge to release Patty so she can be with Ryan in his final moments.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
But the judge refuses. Calls Patty a baby killer.
How could anyone be so callous in the face of such a tragedy?
It's unimaginable. Ryan's baptized. Then he passes away in David's arms.
Oh my gosh, that's devastating.
After Ryan's death, Patty's charges are upgraded to first-degree murder.
So she's facing life in prison for a crime she might not have committed.
It's a nightmare. While in prison, Patty finds out she's pregnant again, gives birth to her second son, DJ.
A glimmer of hope in all this darkness.
But DJ is immediately taken into state custody.
Of course, that's just adding to the tragedy.
But then something happens. DJ's foster parents notice he's having similar symptoms to Ryan. He's hospitalized.
Wait, so both children are having the same mysterious illness?
That's what Patty starts to think. Maybe there's something else going on, something that explains both her sons' illnesses.
This could be the break they need.
She starts researching, comes across a rare genetic disorder called methylmalonic acidemia, or MMA.
MMA, I've never heard of that.
It can cause a buildup of toxic substances in the body, mimicking the symptoms of antifreeze poisoning.
So it's possible that both boys had this genetic condition all along.
That's what Patty believes. She thinks this is what Ryan had, and now DJ has it too.
That makes a lot of sense, but how do they prove it?
Her lawyer tries to present this theory during the trial, but he doesn't call any expert witnesses.
Oh, no, that's a crucial mistake.
The judge dismisses the theory. Patty's convicted, sentenced to life in prison without parole.
This is just so unfair. She's being punished for something she has no control over.
It's a complete injustice, David. He's devastated, but he's not giving up. He contacts the producers of the TV show Unsolved Mysteries.
Unsolved Mysteries, that show is famous for cracking tough cases.
Patty's story airs, and it catches the attention of Dr. William Sly, a geneticist and pediatrician.
Someone with the right expertise finally paying attention.
Dr. Sly, he's intrigued by Patty's theory. He talked to his colleague, Dr. James Shoemaker, and it turns out Dr. Shoemaker had reviewed Ryan's lab reports. He had suspicions about the diagnosis all along.
So there were red flags from the very beginning.
But they were ignored. Dr. Sly digs deeper. He realizes that the substance identified as ethylene glycol in Ryan's blood was actually propionic acid.
Propionic acid? What's that?
It's something that occurs naturally in people with MMA.
So it wasn't antifreeze at all. It was a misidentification.
A misidentification with devastating consequences. Dr. Sly contacts the prosecutor, George McRoy, with his findings.
So now the truth is finally coming to light.
And to his credit, McRoy, he takes this seriously, reviews the evidence, consults with an independent expert.
He's doing the right thing, finally.
He realizes a terrible mistake has been made. He holds a press conference, publicly apologizes to Patty and David.
It takes a lot of courage to admit a mistake like that.
Especially when it's led to someone's wrongful conviction. He requests that all charges against Patty be dismissed. She's exonerated, finally reunited with her son DJ.
It's a victory, but such a bittersweet one.
It is. Sadly, DJ passed away in 2013 from complications of MMA. But Patty's story, it's a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, hope and truth can prevail.
It's a testament to the power of perseverance, of never giving up on seeking justice.
And a reminder that medical mysteries, they can sometimes be solved, but it often takes a village, collaboration, and relentless pursuit of the truth. These three cases, they highlight the complexity of medicine, the human element of diagnosis, and the importance of never stopping the search for answers. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of medical mysteries.